Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced at North Idaho College on the shores of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guest.
Welcome to today's program. Our topic deals with the status of higher education in America today, with emphasis on community colleges. And our guest is highly qualified to address this important question. I welcome to the program Dr. Barbara Hanson, who is the Vice President of Instruction at North Idaho College. And she came to us in the last year, and we're pleased to say that and welcome, of course, to our viewing audience now that you're a part of our family at North Idaho College. And prior to coming to us, our guest was the Dean of Instruction at Arizona Western College, and she comes to us with a distinguished academic background. She holds a baccalaureate degree in music from the University of Arizona, and also German. She had a double major in music and German. She holds 2 master's degrees. One is in English as a secondary language, and the second degree is in German, both from the University of Arizona. And our guest holds her doctorate degree in education leadership with a specialty in language and culture from Northern Arizona University. Dr. Hanson, welcome to the program. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
As always, I'm very pleased to have our regular panelist, Erna Reinhardt, who's Director of Public Relations at North Idaho College, and Erna shall commence today's questioning.
Thanks, Tony. Dr. Hanson, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here with us today. I wanted to start our discussion today talking a little bit about some of the trends that have been in higher education and ask you specifically to tell us what are some of the things that you have seen in the last 10 years that has really changed higher education, and maybe how delivery of instruction has occurred.
Probably the most significant impact on education in the last 10 years has been the introduction of technology for a variety of purposes, not only as institutional support for infrastructure, but also in the delivery of education. And we've seen the beginnings of internet courses over the course of the last 10 years. There's video conferencing, or IVC courses, as some people call them, or different types of transmission. There's satellite courses, there's telecourses. So all of these delivery modes have been added into instruction. I think as institutions of higher education have embraced these new delivery modes, that the technology in and of itself has not been so much of the challenge, because they have a lot of expertise from their faculty members and they can learn to work in these environments. I think the challenge to the institutions has been trying to figure out how to support the infrastructure, because it takes so many pieces and people, if you will. If you have the machines, you've got to have people to help support those machines and to make sure that they're working, and to make sure that we have all the copyrights covered and all of the underpinnings, if you will, that make the production of education through those delivery modes successful.
What about that has been a benefit for students? How have students benefited from that, Dr. Hanson?
I think if you look at our society, how it's changed, our society in general is much more techno-savvy. There's MTV, which probably is very dated, talking about that. But kids routinely, younger kids routinely process information at much more rapid speeds than we probably did, and which is good and bad in terms of how we traditionally deliver instruction. My daughter was on the computer when she was 6 or 7. I never even saw a computer till much later in life. So I think that our society is evolving into more of a technological-based society, so students expect that. And it becomes familiar for students in that respect, so that they can have a delivery mode that kind of fits in with what they see as part of their generational right. It also has provided students some flexibility. In the community college in particular, I think we have a lot of working adults that come back to school, and they may be juggling families and jobs, and sometimes having an internet course is nice. You can, after you get the kids to bed and got the dishes cleaned up, or whatever it is you're doing, you can go and have your time, be it in the evening or in the morning, and you can interact in an internet environment with your instructor and with other students in the class, and you're not tied to a classroom at a specific time. So I think that that's been advantageous to meet the needs of the changing demands. We no longer in the society can sustain a household with one income. More than likely you're going to find a household, if you're fortunate enough to have two people in the household both working, then you're going to have both of them working. So it's a matter of prioritizing. It's another alternative. It's an option that one can avail themselves of.
Great, thanks.
I want to follow up on that, Dr. Hanson, and mine's very involved questions. That's what I tend to do.
That's fine.
All over the United States in higher education, both universities, four-year schools, and community colleges have got involved in this technology, and they're delivering that system out to a much broader population. In fact, you can be in one state and take courses at a great distance. And here in our case, and I'm a supporter, of course, of distance learning, and our rural areas such as Bonners Ferry and places of distance, students can get an awful lot of courses either via internet or also our through condensed video or computers where you can actually be seen. But here's my concern. If one receives, let's say, their baccalaureate degree and never comes to the campus, or maybe even a graduate work, and they sit in front of a machine, one of the concerns that some of us have is that there's a social interaction that is missing if they don't come to lectures on campus or drama productions or concerts, whatever. Are we going to create a society that loses a lot of the social interaction that's essential to, I believe, the population of any country?
That is a very detailed question. I think one of the criticisms of distance education has been, of education delivered through particularly internet, has been that it may or may not be as broad and as rich an environment as you would find in a traditional setting because of, for exactly the reasons that you mentioned, that students not only have the opportunity to interact with colleagues in the class, but they interact with the college physical environment. They go to the student union, they go to a basketball game, they do all of those things. In terms, so you know, there sometimes are some things that may be lost. Probably the most critical thing that you mentioned as a society is our ability to work in teams, our ability to network, our ability to work as a member of a group. And I think what you'll find at institutions that are very concerned about maintaining that skill within the delivery of their courses will work hard within their online environment to create opportunities for group interaction. I know at some of the institutions that I've been affiliated with, that has been an institutional goal, is to make sure that students who exit the institution demonstrate the ability to work in networks and groups and teams. And we worked very hard through different delivery modes, and I know at our campus here at NIC, we're starting to look more systematically at how we're able to accomplish that for exactly the reasons that you state. Another interesting trend that's really happening with the delivery of internet courses is that most students, national statistics support that most students do not do their entire degree online. They do some combination. They look at it as a menu, if you will. It's a smorgasbord. You know, I'm going to go take this class in a traditional classroom, and I may be living in the dorm, but I'm going to pick this one up as an internet course. So they kind of mix and match. Another trend in the delivery of internet courses is that students tend to gravitate more towards hybrid courses. And what I mean by hybrid, if you're not familiar with the term, is that there's multiple delivery modes used within a single course. So some of the course may be you're sitting in a lecture in a traditional classroom. Some of it may be on the internet. Some of it may be IVC. So there's a variety of mediums through which the content is delivered.
Even a college, university could put that in their requirements, could they not? That only a certain percentage could come from one system, such as a delivery system of internet.
You could, I mean, you certainly could
You'd have that ability to do it if you wish. One other thing came up, and I want to move to another area of your expertise,
Sure.
but I've had several students in my classes that met in the class and married. So the opportunity to find a spouse that might be a greater opportunity in that setting than setting at the home at the internet. Anyway, that just came to mind while you were talking. In fact, I served as best man in one of those, and so maybe I'm going to advocate.
Have a sideline for one of the dating
search
services.
for your future spouse at the campus.
That's right.
But your doctorate is in leadership, and you said something in a memo to me that I was really taken back from statistically, and I think I'm really glad you did, and that is you're indicating at the community college level, and I would assume it might be at the four-year schools too, that in the next decade, I believe you said about 50% of the leaders of those campuses will retire. Is that I'd like you to elaborate on that and what that means for us and what advice you would have to the boards of trustees and directors for how they're going to deal with that in the future.
Well, and forgive me if my numbers are a little bit off, nationally there's only about 1,200 community colleges nationally. And it becomes actually may sound like a lot, but it's not really a lot. And those people who are in leadership roles in community colleges through professional organizations, attending conferences, you kind of tend to know one another, and it's really a small group. And the people who are in the upper levels of administration are at the age now where they're looking towards retirement. And they have been in those positions, a good portion of them, for almost 50% of them, for such a period of time that we're going to be starting to see within the next 5 years to 10 years, mass exoduses of those people who are leaving. And we, as a system, and as for higher education, and particularly the community colleges, need to really consider what we want in leadership. We also need to hopefully provide opportunities to groom and grow people, whether they be within an existing institution, to provide opportunities for advancement so that you maintain some of the integrity, the historical perspective of an institution, a piece of its culture, if you will, which is so important for the institution to continue to evolve. Innovation and change is good. It's an absolutely important thing. However, it's also important to maintain pieces and pillars within the system that provide the historical context as well as perspective on how to move forward. I think one of the biggest concerns will be for the presidencies. You're going to see a lot of vacancies there initially. What we ask of community college presidents in particular has changed over time. A lot more emphasis is placed on the ability to fundraise. We live in a time, not only for community colleges, but institutions of higher education, where we have more and more need of money. We have a greater disparity between incomes in particular population bases, so that we can't raise tuition so much, so our revenue streams are not keeping pace with what the inflation is for salaries for technology. I mean, technology is extremely expensive, but also is very necessary to maintain not only the infrastructure of the institution, but as well as the technology delivery, as we spoke about earlier. So the skill set that a president or a leader at an upper level at an institution brings is starting to vary. You need to be able to work with people in a variety of contexts. The ability to respond to community. There's a lot of demands that are placed on a college by the community, and rightly so, because it is a community college, and so the college needs to be in the community and of the community and be responsive to the community. At the same time, they're playing lots of balancing acts.
It's kind of like, and something that you're also concerned about in the nursing and health science program. We have a shortage in this country, which has become very serious. But back to our issue, since your doctorate's in that area, are we training enough people in leadership to fill these vacancies, or are those programs needing to increase their enrollment just like we need to in the nursing area?
Well, I think that particularly national groups such as the American Association of Community Colleges, AACC, they have recognized this need probably within the last 5 to 6 years, and are offering leadership development conferences and asking for institutions to nominate people to attend, and advertising that. So that is a proactive step, if you will, to try to get people interested in and groomed for and experienced in opportunities that if they want to advance. There's also internship programs that some institutions provide for graduate students. Let's say you're a major is in educational leadership and you want to have an opportunity to do some type of internship as part of your educational programming. So North Idaho College may say, okay, come and spend a semester, or come and spend 6 weeks and work at this institution, and we'll give you some administrative tasks, and you can find out if this is really what you thought it was going to be or not. And that gives you a good indication if you've chosen the path that you want to pursue. There's more things that we can do. I think we really need to look internally. There's some institutions that have a special niche and may not, by geographic climate or for many other reasons, may not be attractive to a really broad base of applicants. So you also, I think it's important to look internally. Are there people internally in your organization that you want to groom, if you will, and mentor them, and provide opportunities for them to spread their wings.
Thank you. Erna Reinhardt.
Organizations need to evolve and change, and sometimes higher education is criticized for being slow in that arena. So share with us your thoughts, Dr. Hansen, on how do colleges and universities determine what new programs to bring on board or what new disciplines to bring on board? And if there's a process for that, kind of explain to our viewers what that process might be.
Well, I'll address that in two ways, in two categories. First category I'll speak to shortly or briefly is general education, and that was determined by Aristotle actually bazillion years ago in terms of what the major divisions are and what one says is the attributes of a generally educated person. So we ask a person to be able to read and write. That's part of general education. So those core type courses, you're always going to see English, you're always going to see composition, some type of communication. Part of the general education core is also arts and humanities type courses. So you will always see in a general education curriculum courses that provide introduction to or more specific development in areas, be it theater or music or dance, art, literature. You'll see that area. There's also social and behavioral sciences, which kind of goes without saying. Thank you. I should have put that one first, huh? Where you'll learn about social systems, how we organize a society, what are the pieces that play in that, race and ethnic minorities, all of the different pieces, political systems. I forgot that one, Tony. You also have physical and biological sciences. These are the pieces of the curriculum where you study the science and mathematics. Physical education was part of the original academy, and I was very impressed that NIC has that as part of its general education curriculum. When I was looking at that, I'm an advocate of physical education. I think it's important to educate the mind, the body, and the spirit. So that's a very important category as well. And I think I left one out. What did I leave out?
I think you've been very comprehensive.
So thank you.
Yeah.
The other piece that I think in terms of programs, if you look at professional technical education as well as workforce and economic development. First I'll speak to professional technical education. Probably you have to look at a number of opportunities when we're looking at developing programs. First and foremost is the need to be responsive to your community and look at what the needs are in terms of employment skills that are necessary for the community. What can we train people with that they're going to stay here and that they can get jobs doing? And you do that by working with your local researcher, your Department of Labor, the person who collects all your statistics, Catherine Tackey, and you talk to her and you look at those things as pieces of that. You also hopefully conduct surveys out in the community. Another piece that you need to be cognizant of is what is happening nationally. What are some of the projections down the road? What are the highest, hottest professions? The highest, hottest professions are in nursing and healthcare, anything related to healthcare as we become a very aging generation, and I'm one of them. You know, I certainly want someone.
Quite a ways to go.
I'll catch up with you.
You've got years left.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. But you know, these are you look at national trends, local trends, national trends. The other thing that I think is important for us to look at is what opportunities do we have where we can position ourselves regionally? Can we provide something that is not available in our region, not just in Coeur d'Alene, but can we position ourselves and say, okay, there's a vacuum here. If we fill this vacuum and have a top-notch program, which we wouldn't have any other kind, would we be able to serve not only the Coeur d'Alene, the immediate area, but some of the outreach areas? So that's another thing you look at. You also look for opportunities arising. I think more and more institutions of higher education have to be pragmatic, and we talked a little bit about presidents needing to fundraise, but across the institution you need to look at opportunities to partner with entities in the community. At a previous institution that I worked at, our nursing program received a lot of subsidy from our nursing, from our hospital. We had one hospital in the region, which is similar to North Idaho College, and it was to their advantage because we produced nurses that they needed, and it was to our advantage because they helped support that in real dollars. So you look for opportunities within the community where we can meet a community need, but the community is also willing to step up to the plate. I think we're starting to see more and more of that in North Idaho. I know there's been some discussions with the manufacturing group here in Coeur d'Alene, and they've had some discussion about doing some scholarships for students, and there's lots of discussions that are taking place, exploring. So it's not any one of those things, but it's looking at all four of those things, and then there's just things that sometimes come up, opportunities arising, but it's important to try to keep a balance. National trends are not always going to reflect your local needs, and local needs are not always going to be aligned with national trends, but you need to consider both in terms of planning. With professional technical education programs, they're usually pretty cost-intensive, equipment-heavy type programs. So you want, to the extent possible, to be as prudent as you can before you say, okay, we're going to set up this program and it's going to cost us $500,000 just for equipment, not to mention the staff that will need to support it. So you want to try to get your ducks in a row and have been prudent and judicious in making the decision as to whether to move forward with it.
My question's really open-ended for
Okay.
you. Something else is changing, and it happened a few years ago in Idaho, and I've been very supportive of this, and Representative Meyer, who was in office at the time, introduced the bill in the legislature, and that is, I see community colleges kind of in the middle ground between the high schools and the four-year institutions as a conduit through that process, and I'd like for you to explain to a lot of our viewers who might not have been close to higher education in recent years, when things that we call dual credit, some of us call it dual enrollment, but where very gifted students in high school that are meeting their units very early and they want to start on the college while they're still in high school. Share that with the viewers, what you think and how it works. And then secondly, for people who are considering community colleges and what they have concerns, how does this transfer to four-year institution? How do we cooperate with four-year institutions around America? Maybe changing some of the numbering system and also courses transfer easier. We call this seamless education. So that's my open-ended question for you to share with the viewers about how you see that working in the future.
Okay, well, first I'll address is advanced placement opportunities for high school students, which the state of Idaho has been very aggressive in pursuing, which I commend them on and commend us on now that I'm officially a resident as of yesterday, so I'm now an Idahoan. They've been very aggressive in providing opportunities for high school students. We have a dual credit program whereby eligible juniors and seniors in high school can take college courses using the same type of curriculum, the same textbooks, the same requirements, all of those, and earn college credit while they're still in high school. And that is a growing population for North Idaho College. We have, I think, actually this semester, and forgive me if I'm misquoting the number, I think I heard today that we have 300 students.
This is a trend around the country.
It's a trend around the country also, but in being obviously focused on North
Yes.
Idaho College, we're very pleased with the opportunity. Another way that students can get advanced credit is through advanced placement, which is testing that students can engage in. And again, it provides those students who are eligible and who are interested in getting a head start and an orientation towards higher education, they can get a jump start on it and begin to test the waters, if you will. Another trend that's related to dual credit in many respects, and many states are starting to explore it, and I imagine North Idaho has had some dialogue, as well as the state of Idaho on this, is to have a better articulation between the outcomes at the high school and articulate with those courses at either the community college or the university for entry-level courses, so that students have a better sense of what skills that they need. So just as we articulate with universities in 2+2 programs where we have the first 2 years, the lower division, and then they transfer to a four-year college, there is more and more formalization going on nationwide to formalize the articulation between the high schools and the college, so that the students, when they come out and they've graduated from high school, they should be able to go right into English 101 rather than have to do any kind of remediation or college-level math. So those discussions are starting to take place. In fact, I was reading, and I just wanted to share this, in the from the Chronicle of Higher Education on January 5th, so it's most recent, is that it says, as many colleges increase their minimal requirements for admissions, officials of Idaho's Board of Education are advocating tougher high school graduation requirements. They want the states to increase the amount of mathematics and science high school students must take to require that they take a standardized college entrance test like SAT or ACT. So you can see that the state is starting to think in this manner. So it's not only they're going to increase the requirements, but it will give us an opportunity to articulate with the high schools in the state and say, okay, what are your outcomes when a student graduates from high school in science and math and English? What skill level will they be able to perform at, and how does that translate into what the skill level is that they're expected to be able to have going into English 101 or going into college algebra or going into biology? So that'll be a great opportunity, and I think you're going to see more and more and more of that. In terms of transfer, again, the state of Idaho is very progressive in that we established through the State Board of Education here a transfer model whereby if students complete their general education block, they have to complete the whole block at any of the community colleges in the state, those automatically transfer as a block to the universities. Now, in the state, if they don't complete the block, then there's still the course-by-course evaluation, but a student can come to NIC or they can go to CSI or any other of the or technical school. I'm not sure if they offer the full array of general education courses, Eastern, but they just go as a complete block. So there's that articulation. Students don't have to worry that they're going to lose credits. So that's very important.
You know, I heard Dr. Michael Burke, unfortunately we're losing, he's going to another institution to be president, and we really want to say goodbye to Dr. Burke on this program. He's been remarkable. But he gave a statistic the other day that 45% of all students entering higher education go to the community college. It's really taken a leap in this country. So what you're saying is then, isn't there a much more developing relationship between four-year institutions and community colleges on this whole business of transfer and entering a university with a junior status? Even changing numbers of courses so it's easy for the advisors to say you've had the right courses?
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying that I know in this state we've talked about a lot about that English 101 here would be English 101 at a university. Even just a numbering system can help that transfer situation.
Absolutely. And
not cause confusion.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure, I know the state that I came from before I moved here to Idaho, we had what we called articulation task forces.
Okay.
And each group of faculty in higher education, both universities and community colleges, by discipline met once a semester. And it was at those meetings that they hammered out common prefixes, common numbering systems, so that within the state, I mean, it's really difficult to deal with an out-of-state institution because you can, I mean, there's 49 other ones.
We're out of time. I also want to say accreditation organizations, same for communities, universities. Ladies and gentlemen, please be with us again next week and we'll discuss another issue. Until then, please have a good time. This is Tony Stewart.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running in-house college production on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station.